my mower.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we're going to start with roll call.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Labar,
Present.
Councilmember Alfieri,
Here.
Councilmember Case,
Here.
Councilmember Neal,
Here.
Councilmember Zuluaga.
Present.
Thank you.
Great. Now Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know. Okay, and now we are on to ceremonies, presentations, and appointments. We'll start with 3A, which is a presentation by Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments by Executive Director Andrew Gunning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem Labar and council members. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Andy Gunning with the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. Jessica's handing out some slides that we're going to walk you through. I'm not sure if they're on the screen as well, but just wanted to go through and oh, sorry, thank you. All right, thank you for connecting out. So thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Andy Gunning with the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And with me tonight are Jessica McMullen. You just met Jessica handing out the handouts for tonight. She's our Policy and Communications Manager. And also John Leosadas. He's our Transportation Director at Ppsug. And appreciate the opportunity. We're used to doing member outreach meetings in the summer. We actually had to take last summer off given COVID and everybody meeting by Zoom and so forth. So this is our first meeting of 2021. So really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you so much. So I wanted to just tell you a little bit about who we are and what we're up to, but also want to hear from you. If you have some projects and issues that you want to talk about, that's why we're here today. So really appreciate the opportunity. So we'll get started. Next slide, just for those of you that don't know who we are, we're actually a council of governments, sort of a regional planning agency that covers a 3-county area. I think I've got a slide that shows the member jurisdictions here. But basically, we're an entity that allows elected officials in our jurisdictions to come together and deal with issues that cross jurisdictional boundaries. And they cover transportation and environmental issues and a whole series of others that I'm going to talk about tonight for a few minutes. We're one of 15 COGs across Colorado and have been in place since 1967. And obviously, the city of Woodland Park has got a seat at the table. So skipping ahead, I've got a slide that shows who the Ppsug membership is. We've got 13 cities and towns and 3 counties, Delaware, El Paso, and Park County, that comprise the Ppsug geography, if you will. I don't think our chair is going to make it tonight, but our current chair is Stan Vanderwerf, El Paso County Commissioner. Did invite him. He was going to try to make it, but not sure if it was going to work out with his schedule or not. We also have Eric Stone, Delaware County Commissioner, who's on our governing board as well. The city's well represented by Councilmember Zuluaga at our Ppsug board meetings as well. We've got a 20-member board comprised of elected officials across all the jurisdictions within our region, and they come together monthly and deal with, like I said, issues that cross jurisdictional boundaries. I'll talk a little bit about this here in just a moment. We also work really closely with other partners at the state level and the federal level. At the state level, obviously, CDOT is a close partner of ours, Public Health and the Environment, and other state agencies. We also work with federal agencies as well, like USDOT, Department of Defense, and EPA, and others. So we work horizontally, if you will, up and down the chain with local governments on our governing bodies, and also work closely with the state and the feds. Skipping ahead to the next slide. I'm not going to dive into detail here, but you've got kind of a list of what our different strategic planning goals are at Ppsug. We adopted our first ever strategic plan back in 2018 and did an update last year. And really kind of the main theme here is that everything that we work on across our organization is really driven by what our board has adopted as far as our overarching strategic plan. So really good direction there. Basically, the main theme that's come across with our plan is that we serve as a regional convener for our communities across the region. So we can bring parties together, again, to solve issues that cross jurisdictional boundaries. So that's really kind of the main takeaway from our strategic plan direction, if you will. Next slide. I'm not going to get into great detail, but these are our main program areas that we have within Ppsug. I'm going to touch on a bunch of them just real briefly, just to kind of give you a sense as to the different work that we are working on currently and how that impacts Woodland Park. One thing that I'll mention is everything that we do is driven by committee work that we have in place as well. We've got citizens that serve on our advisory committees. We have technical advisory committees. You're well represented by Sally on our technical/transportation advisory committee that met earlier today, and they're the group that recommends how transportation money, for instance, should be split up across the region. And those recommendations then come to our Ppsug governing board. I'll touch on a few of our program areas here in just a moment. Next slide. We'll start with Area Agency on Aging, actually. That's one of our primary programs. We wear a lot of different hats within Ppsug. One of our missions is to serve as the Area Agency on Aging. It's a federal designation. And what that means is that we're eligible to get money that flows down from the federal and state level, and then use that for various senior services that are needed across the region. Kind of the overarching goal of the AAA is that we want to help seniors to be able to stay in their homes and in their communities as long as possible. We want them to be able to live safely and have the resources they need to be able to age in place, basically. That's kind of our overarching mission there. Next slide. I think we just talked briefly about what some of the key things are that we're working on in the AAA. And again, I'm not going to go into these in great detail. You've got them as a takeaway, but a couple of the main programs here. We provide expert advice for folks that are signing up for Medicare during the open enrollment Medicare process each year. We run what's called a family caregiver support program. A lot of us are having to care for elderly family members or elderly friends, and we're not trained and not equipped to deal with those kinds of situations. We have a support network within the AAA that helps connect those caregivers with the services and the needs that they have to help care for seniors that may be living in their homes. We run what's called an ombudsman program, where we help residents in long-term care facilities that may have issues with the care facility, or we're there to help solve various problems that come up. And then advocacy, obviously, we've been pretty active the past year and a half dealing with COVID relief money that's been flowing down from the feds and from the state, and getting that out to our various service providers that we work with across the region. And speaking of which, services in Woodland Park that we support, we've got a close working relationship with the Teller Senior Coalition, and also the Community of Caring and Aspen Mine Center over in Cripple Creek. And they're long-standing partners of ours. Through our Ppsug board funding process, we provide money to help organizations like this provide the services that they provide, whether it's transportation for seniors to get to doctor's appointments, meal delivery is a pretty primary service as well, and a whole host of other activities. So that's just kind of a quick snapshot of what we do in the AAA. Next slide, please. Another major topic program area of ours at Ppsug is our environmental quality and planning area, but it's kind of really specifically focused on two main areas, dealing with water quality and air quality. Next slide, please. Water quality, not going to get into this in detail, but we've adopted a water quality management plan for the region, went to our board in 2020. That's in place now for a number of years. It's tied in with our growth projections. The main thing that's really been on our radar in our environmental planning area really deals more with air quality and where we are as far as ozone emissions within our region. You may see periodic reports about up in the Denver area and north of Denver and Boulder and well in Larimer counties where their air quality is in pretty serious condition, if you will, and they're in what's called containment for ozone. In our region, conversely, we still attain the EPA standard for ozone and all the other pollutants that are required to be monitored within our region. There's 6 of them in total. But ozone is one that we're kind of right on the edge with, and we're trying to do everything we can proactively to make sure that we keep meeting the standard. But it's something that we're really concerned about. It's affected by a lot of different sources: transportation emissions, some manufacturing. Production causes emissions that affects air quality, ozone especially negatively, but also wildfires. So I think that's one kind of common area of interest where we're trying to work with our jurisdictions and other partners to really get ahead of our wildfire mitigation needs to make sure that that's not going to be another major cause of bad air quality. And it really does impact our ozone in the region. Next slide, please. I'm not going to talk about this one too much either, but it's our military planning program. We work with our 5 military installations that are major economic drivers within our region, and basically working with the local community to make sure we're not making decisions that really adversely affect how the installations operate. We want to make sure that we're making good land use decisions and transportation investments and making other decisions that really help the installations thrive and do what they need for their training and operations. So that's just been a long-standing program that we have in place as well. Next slide. And this might be I think the last program I was going to really focus on, and that's transportation planning. I mentioned that we wear a lot of different hats, and one of those is what's called the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO. And what that is, it's a designation that's federally recognized where we have to coordinate transportation needs within the urbanized area. It's called the Colorado Springs urbanized area, basically. So Woodland Park is part of this MPO area, so they're part of our long-range transportation planning process. And also, when we develop our transportation improvement program, or the TIP, you're part of that process as well. I think we have some examples of what that might look like. Next slide. This is just a map that shows different geographies that we deal with in transportation planning. I'm not going to try to explain it. We've got it in your packet, but we also, on either side of this, is what's called a transportation planning region, which is a state designation that's coordinated by CDOT. So if you're outside of that urbanized area, CDOT kind of coordinates your planning needs for transportation. But if you're within that MPO area, like Woodland Park is within our Colorado Springs urbanized area, then we coordinate that for you. Next slide. So just wanted to highlight a few current kind of major activities that we're dealing with in transportation. We're going through the process right now, the final stages of adopting our next transportation improvement program, or our TIP. Again, you can think of that as sort of a CIP, if you will, for transportation projects. It's where we're going to spend federal and state and other funds for transportation needs over the next 4 years. And that's going to go to our board for adoption in August. It's also got to be tied to our long-range transportation plan. And we updated our plan, I want to say about 1.5 years ago, that goes out to a horizon year of 2045, but we're in the process of getting started with an update to that. Based on federal requirements, we have to update our plan every couple of years, depending on our air quality status. So we're now getting into an update that's going to go out to the year 2050. And in that process, we look at what growth is going to look like across the region, population growth, employment growth, and then look at our transportation needs and how we're going to get our community around by roadways, by transit, and all the other modes that we have to plan for. Also, it has to be a fiscally constrained plan where we have to identify how we're going to pay for what our needs are. So you'll hear a lot more about that in the coming years, actually, just getting started. And I forget what our end date might be, but it's about 2 years or so out. We've got a lot of other studies that flow into that as well, that really inform that planning process. But you'll hear a lot about that, and Sally's been representing the city really well in that process. One of the products that's going to roll into that is what we call our Tri-County Transportation Study, and that's looking actually beyond our urbanized area and the entire 3-county region at what our transportation needs might be. So we're just now ready to get started, I think, within a matter of weeks or a month or so. I think we finally have a contract signed. So that'll be an opportunity for us to engage with Teller County and Park County and see how our transportation needs are connected with all of our different communities. Basically looking at what our needs are below the level of what the state or CDOT maintains. So what are county roads or local roads that we have needs for as far as capacity or safety improvements. This will be an effort to really identify those, and then taking that further along, identify ways that we might be able to advance going after funding sources that might help pay for those improvements. So just now getting started with that effort. Shifting gears a little bit, but still within the transportation realm, is we're dealing with a number of rulemaking efforts that the state has initiated, dealing with greenhouse gas emissions. It's been a real high priority of this state administration, as I'm sure you've heard, around climate change issues and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So there are basically two rulemaking efforts that are underway right now. One that's going through the Air Quality Control Commission, and another one that's going to go through the State Transportation Commission, both dealing with reducing emissions. And we've signed up for rulemaking party status for one of them. It deals with major employers in our region and across the state. If you have a major employment site of 100 or more employees in one location, you may have to come up with a plan to reduce your travel for your workforce by a certain date, by certain targets. The way the rules were initially drafted, they didn't envision including our regions since we meet under air quality standards. But we have concerns based on comments we've heard from some of the commission members at the Air Quality Control Commission that we may get swept into that. So we signed up to keep tracking that. Jessica submitted our comments to try to keep us out of that requirement this last week. So then we'll find out in August if we're actually going to be required as a region to have our major employers comply with this or not. So that's one rule making. The other one just started today or yesterday? Probably
Transportation Commission.
Transportation Commission started today. So that's going to be a requirement that we can't get out of. That and we don't know the details around it yet, but they're going to require that we look at our regional travel patterns or our vehicle miles of travel, and the state's going to tell us that it may be X, but we have to reduce it to Y by a certain year in our modeling and forecasting that we do through Ppsug, through our travel model. So we've got some concerns about that as well. We don't know how that's going to shake out, if it's going to be a punitive approach where they're going to put some, perhaps unrealistic goals in place for us to be able to try to meet those, or is there going to be some other mitigation that we could do to try to manage it, do our best effort to try to reduce travel, but still comply with what the state's looking for. So this is going to be a big deal, and we're going to talk about this a lot through our board process and with our committees and so forth. But just wanted to get that on your radar because this would be a really, really big deal. And I'll say another word about that here in just a minute. So we've got some workshops where we're going to drill into these issues in a little more detail. And then finally, just wanted to mention that transportation safety, traffic safety issues across the region are really concerning. Even during the pandemic, when travel basically was reduced a lot because people stayed home and worked from home, we saw our crash rates go up, our serious and fatal crash rates. So there was a longstanding program in the region called Drive Smart Colorado that was about to close its doors last year. And when we found that out, we said, well, let's maybe bring it over to our shop at Ppsug and keep it going. So we're going to have it operate as a nonprofit under our organization, just so we can't lose the momentum that they've built around traffic safety, driver education, and things like that. We need to do a much better job with getting people to put their cell phones down when they drive, not run red lights, and so forth. Next slide, please. So these are just a couple of the projects that are funded in our TIP, basically the CIP for transportation projects, like I mentioned. One that's within the city, and then one that's in the city as well, but it's a state project on Highway 67. Realized driving up here this evening that we don't have the repaving project on US 24 on here as well, but I know the CDOT has repaving of 24 from where it stops at Chapita Park through Woodland Park. In their plans to do next summer is what we hear, summer of 22, finishing up in the fall of next year, and then starting from Woodland Park, going out to the divide in 2023. So that's out there as well, and we understand that that's funded, pretty sure. So these are just a couple of the projects that are in the funded portion of the TIP. I know there may be some other projects that you may have some questions or want to chat about a little bit, whether it's a reliever route or other projects that might be on your mind, and we're happy to chat about those as well. Next slide. Not going to get into this in detail, but we also operate what's called the Regional Transportation Authority or the Rural Transportation Authority for the Pikes Peak area with 5 member jurisdictions. And just a very quick aside, I guess, with this, we're going out for another election to extend the life of the PPRTA, if you will, in 2022. It doesn't expire until 2024, but we're going to go out in 2022 and just a standing offer. If the city is interested in becoming a member to the PPRTA, the governing body of the authority is always looking for new members if they want to join in. We know that Callahan is going to join, or we suspect that Callahan is going to join us as well. We're having conversations with other jurisdictions. Next slide. So I think that's pretty much it. I ran through that pretty quickly, just sort of hit the highlights of the different things we're working on. I did want to circle back to a couple of workshops that we're going to hold in August that would be good to have on your radar. So in addition to our regular board meetings, we've got a couple of sessions where we're going to invite our board members, the city, town, county managers, our tech members, and others to really dive into some of these issues, especially on the transportation side in a little more detail. So on Monday, August the 2nd in the morning, The agenda so far is going to be a discussion around federal transportation and infrastructure possibilities that are out there. We've got a key point person that we work with back in Washington, D.C., who represents other regional councils. Is going to give a briefing on what the latest is there with federal funding issues. It's going to be followed by a discussion of state transportation funding. There was the passage of Senate Bill 260 this year that's going to generate additional revenue that flows to the local jurisdictions in the form of HUTF, and it's also going to have other funding possibilities and a bunch of other different funding pots. So we're going to have a briefing on that from CDOT as well that morning. Then we're also going to talk in more detail about the greenhouse gas emissions rulemaking efforts that are underway. We'll have a better sense at that point, I think, what the rules might be. So we'll talk further about that and discuss what the impact might be on the region. And the second session is going to be on Monday, August the 16th, 2 weeks later, and we're going to talk about transportation, electrification opportunities. A lot of funding out there these days at the state and federal level, we think, for things like charging stations for EVs and building out the network that might be needed to deal with range anxiety and things like that. So we'll talk about transportation electrification. Also going to talk about the Front Range Passenger Rail project that would come through the Colorado Springs region as well. And then again, talk about what the impacts of these different state and federal initiatives might be on our region. So I'll leave it at that. I know I covered a lot of ground, and I know we've got the details and the slides in front of you, but happy to answer any questions, or John or Jessica can also answer any questions you might have. If there's anything I didn't touch on.
Council?
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you referred to it as State Bill 260. Was it Senate Bill 260?
It
SB?
was, yes, Senate Bill SB 21260.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Andy, as you presented this, a couple of thoughts came to me. One was the greenhouse gas emissions regulations that are coming down, and the look at transportation, traffic, whatever, how those kind of interact. The rail is going from Denver to Colorado, right, and then down to Pueblo. Is that kind of the track of that, how that's supposed to be looking?
It originates, I guess, in Trinidad, further to the south.
Oh, does it?
The plan, we don't know phasing what that might look like, but Trinidad and then out to past Fort Collins, close to Wyoming.
Okay.
But as far as, if I might, as far as what segment's going to happen first, that will actually come onto the ballot. So the commission has not made that decision yet. So we don't know where it's going to start and where it's going to end, or what particular phase they're going to do. That's still up in the air. I just want to make sure people weren't thinking it was first thing was going to happen in Trinidad. It probably is going to happen in Denver and head north is their first phase. But that's just me being a skeptic.
I see. So I guess then in terms of those numbers or the volume of traffic, that's really going to be more of a Colorado Springs impact. I guess what I'm saying is you're not seeing a rail coming up to go out to Buena Vista or something, are you? Or nothing's been talked?
There's been
Yeah.
talk of doing something up I-70, but I think that's just talk at this point.
Oh, at the top end, yeah.
But yeah, nothing really concrete as far as planning something in the mountains.
So it's not really something, that, at least in our region, that we have to, because we have daily traffic coming up and down the mountain, but it's auto traffic, and I'm just electrifying, maybe electric cars, but I'm otherwise.
Yeah, and probably more plans for things like Mustang, the CDOT's operated transits by bus, if you will, up through the pass potentially. I know there've been discussions around that, especially with the new funding that's been made available through Senate Bill 260 potentially, but I haven't heard of anything concrete. But I think they all know in the conversations we have, the regular conversations we have with CDOT and the Transportation Commission, they know the need and the great demand. And the choke points that we have on US 24, you see it, you deal with it every day, obviously coming through downtown. And they know that we only have a couple of major routes into the mountains up and down the Front Range of Colorado. So we've got to deal with it. They've got to deal with it. So we've all got to figure it out here at some point and come up with some additional options. I don't think rail is going to be one of those necessarily, but some other transit bus options potentially, I can see being in play.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on.
Just wanted to say thanks for coming all the way up too. That was great. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful here. Make sure you catch the sunset or something too.
Yes, we spent money in town before we came on.
All right, moving on to 3B is the quarterly financial update to the city council, and the presentation will be by Michael Lawson.
So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Wanted to apologize first and foremost because council just got this like this afternoon. Also to the public too. We have posted this on our website, but it's been up there again for a series of hours. That's on me. I wanted to review this a little bit more in depth before presenting it to the council. So I'll take ownership for that. I will ask the council, given that you've only had a few hours to review this, is this something you'd like us to bring back to you at a future meeting? I can go through it now and answer questions, or we can revisit as well.
Council.
I sent an email to Michael to distribute asking that we not, I mean, if we want to gloss over it at some level, that's fine. But I reserve the right. I would like to do a little homework.
Sure.
And Kelly has just now offered to help me in my learning curve. I don't want to waste your time asking a bunch of petty questions.
Sure. Well, thank you for the new format, first and foremost. That's awesome. And I would like you to give an overview of the format, not the details, because I agree with Rusty, want to have a drill down on that. But I like the fact that these percentages are now making more sense and they're contrasted to 2020. So could you kind of walk us through that?
Sure. And our interim CFO firm, Chief Financial Officer firm, put this together. I think this is really similar to the format we used to have. You might have seen this at the end of last year. Did kind of refresh it for new logo and new colors, and tried to clean it up a little bit, make it just a little more simple. But what folks will see here, we'll start off with expenditures for the general fund, and then on the following page you'll see the general fund revenues, and then each separate of the city funds will get a similar treatment on the following pages. And so you'll see our 21 budget, where we are 2021 year to date. That's going to be the first quarter. What we've received year to date, percentage wise, and then 2020 for the sake of comparison. And then that final column, that percent change, is what 2021 year to date looks like versus 2020. Just a kind of a classic warning for folks as you look at these percentages in particular. Very little in our city works on a calendarized basis where we accrue 1/12 of our expenses or revenues every month on an even basis. So some percentages might be really high because expenses or revenues are front loaded. You'll see property taxes is like that. Some revenues or expenses are really low just because those haven't hit the books yet. So, look at the aggregated numbers and the totals to give you kind of a better idea of where we are as a city so far. And so I'll just go over a few highlighted things just to save you a little bit of time if I could. Some of the numbers that stick out, I'll do that for the general fund. And then if there's any particular questions for any of the other non-general funds, we have our directors here who can answer those questions for you. But I'll try and keep it brief for now. So for this again is the first quarter. Obviously it's mid-July, it's a little late. So again, my apologies for that. Hopefully we'll have the second quarter report for you in early August. Expenditures there on page 1.
Michael,
Yes.
please pause. Rob, it hasn't refreshed online. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Page 1. Again, I'll just hit the highlights. For expenditures, we are about at 18% through the first quarter. So we're doing pretty well. There's a lot of vacancies throughout the city. I believe that's what's driving a lot of the savings that you're seeing here. Of course, 25% of the year had passed by March 31st. So we're doing well on expenditures. Just about every department you can see there is below that 25% threshold, if you will, with the exception of our inter/non-departmental group. That's just as it's described, it's not a department. It's where we stick everything else that doesn't fit neatly in a departmental box. It's a little over budget. And that, for the reason for that is because we paid the entirety of the animal control contract, which we pay in arrears. So we paid 2020 and that was $35,000. So that was accrued all at once. And so there's also our memberships for the Employers Council, which we use for HR purposes, PPACG membership, and then some insurance payments, which, like I said, there's a certain cyclicality to the way we pay our bills. So those are front-loaded expenses. That's why it's a little bit higher than all the other categories. So it's really maybe not a whole lot of notes on expenditures. Going to page 2 for general fund revenues. Of course, being a Colorado city, we are driven primarily by sales tax. You'll see for our 2% sales tax and our 1.09 sales tax are both at 15%. Makes sense. That would be a little bit alarming considering we've only been 25% of the way through the year. However, that's pretty close in line with where we usually are. 2018, 2019, 2020, we're very consistent at about 13%, give or take a few tenths of a percent every year. So the fact that we're at 15% instead of 15% or 15 instead of 13 is an encouraging sign. We're actually doing all right. Business licensing is one of those other numbers that's going to stick out at you right in the middle of the screen there. It's 69%. We discussed this a few months ago. Folks who pay their business licenses, it gets accrued. They pay at the end of the preceding year and it gets pushed forward all into January. So folks are current when the year starts. So that number is heavily front loaded. And then we kind of have a trickle the rest of the year for that business licensing. There's not a whole lot of other things here that I would note for the general fund. Aggregated between expenditures and revenues to date, we're about $110,000 better than budget when you look at the two in balance with each other. But again, this is the first quarter, so I'm not super excited yet. But we do, of course, go with a balanced budget, and we're doing a little bit better for now. So at the very bottom of page 2, you can see that our general fund balance is $4,288,744. 2.6 million of that is undesignated. So we did add to that, but again, we still got 75% of the year to go, at least on paper. So, and with that, I'll conclude my talking unless you have any other questions for myself or our staff.
Did you want to ask about it?
Michael, is this on an accrual basis with regards to the 2% sales tax, or is this cash basis? Do you know? Because January is accrued back to December typically, so that could just be 2 months.
Yeah, there was no data for January. It was showing a 0.
Yeah.
So
It's booked back because they pay in arrears. So
yep, you're right.
Okay, so we'll put this on next agenda for further discussion then. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, and moving on, we are at 3C, which is going to be appointment of a new council member. And before we do that, I just want to briefly explain to the public, we've had a council member who's had some health issues and has a potential for resigning. If they resign, it will trigger a special election, which will cost the city around $20,000 or more in election tax dollars. So in order to prevent that, just in case, as a backup, council has spoken and agreed that we will appoint a council member this evening. Council has the right to appoint a member at any time, depending on situations, even just off the street. So we are following the law, we are following the rules. If one of our council members left now, that would leave 3 seats vacant, which would require us to have a special election. If we appointed someone, and then say, for example, they then appointed me mayor, that would trigger a special election because we've had 2 appointments in a year. That's not going to happen. If we, I covered all of that. But the other thing is, I know historically we've taken applications for this position. It is a historic procedure that we have. It is not a legal procedure. So we don't have to take applications. We are allowed to just appoint someone should we desire to do that. So after speaking, we've made the decision that we have the desire to appoint someone to save the city the headache of a special election, just in case. We're not saying it will happen, but there is a potential that it could happen. So this evening, we already have the person in mind. The way that we decided to do it was to go to the most current previous election and go to the person that had the second highest votes after Councilmember Alfieri. She had the highest votes and won the seat. The second person behind her was Catherine Nakai. So we have discussed that and decided to appoint her. Doesn't mean everyone will vote for her. There's a potential that everyone will. So council, if there's comments or discussion, we're open to that. Or if you'd just like to make a motion and we can move forward, that would be fine as well.
I'd like to start with a comment to say that I have not been consulted in this election. So for the record, I have not been consulted in this, and I'm a little, I'm troubled by, and we're going to go ahead and do it. So this is just for the
Actually, at
record.
last council, I mentioned it to you and said I wanted to go ahead
On
and
camera.
everyone would be okay with it.
No discussion was made on who would be selected and how that, at least not with me. So you
Like
might have
it's-
had private conversations with other
I
council
said by
members.
numbers in the previous election. So it may have,
We didn't have that conversation.
okay,
Yeah. So
I
just
remember it.
for the record,
For the
I didn't have that conversation
sure.
with the board. So I'm a little more uncomfortable about how we've got to right now here. And thank you for clarifying that, well, in actual fact, I did already talk with Stephanie. Stephanie did resign from council to council in writing. And then when she realized that it was going to cost the city $20,000, rescinded that to say, I'm going to rethink this. So just so the public knows, that was the trigger that caused us to be where we are today. So looking at that, we had some unconventional actions at our last council meeting. And so I'm seeing that, I'm going, gee whiz, is a special election such a bad idea? Given the fact that it seems like we're stepping out of procedure a lot from what the public's used to, and are they well informed? So I just want to say that I'm a little reserved about this selection, and I am for a special election and the possibility of that. And I recognize that my vote is in the minority, but an opportunity we could use for a special election is to look at something that Susanna talked about, and that is moving our election cycle into the November election cycle with the rest of the state, the rest of the nation. So how would we do such a resolution? My recommendation would be, however this goes here this evening, that we look at that for our next election cycle.
Well, we've done it for special elections in the past. That was how Stephanie was also appointed, was we moved with the national election. So,
But it's in our charter, I think, that it's in April. So it would have to be, wouldn't it have to be?
well, our
Have to go
regular
to a vote.
election is in
Was that-
April.
Right, so that, to change that to November would require a resolution
It
to
would
the,
require a vote of the people.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So we'd have to put it on the ballot as,
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Council,
Thank
any
you.
further questions or comments?
Check with Stephanie, anything?
She doesn't have any, so she knows to yell at me.
Thank you.
So. All right, council, can I get a motion then?
I'll make a motion to appoint Catherine Nakai to the vacant council seat.
I'll second.
Thank you. Alfieri? Alfieri?
Yes, I'm here.
I'm taking the vote for appointment to Ms. Nakai.
I understand.
Are you voting in the affirmative?
I vote no.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Case?
Yes.
Councilmember Labar?
Yes.
Councilmember Neal?
Yes.
Councilmember Zulawaga?
no.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-2. I am prepared this evening if Mayor Pro Tem Labar, if you would like me to, I'm prepared to administer the oath of office to Ms. Nakai, and she can take her seat this evening if you desire.
Sure. Catherine, would you be comfortable with that? Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, is Catherine in the audience and can I?
Yeah, she's coming
come
up
to
to the podium.
Perfect. Hi, Catherine. Can you see me? Okay, raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Catherine Nakai, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado,
and of the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of city council member
of city council member
upon which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, and we'll get you to sign this in person when I see you next week.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
She can secure it from
Yeah.
there.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and just take a 5-minute recess quickly.
Actually, before we do that, Mayor
Yeah.
Pro Tem, may I just want to comment since I'm not there in person.
Yeah.
Council member Nakai, I just want to say we've shared a very long and strange road together, and I very much look forward to welcoming you in person as soon as I can.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Do you want to sit here or are we going to go ahead and put it right? So you guys.
Test, test.
Again, Michael Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Rob, do we have Mr. Vassilotti? See him? All right.
You have it? Oh, you don't get to see it. This is what there's.
We'll wait. So, okay. All right. So we want to be able to allow him to speak. So I cannot tell you how much joy it gives me to announce that after a long process involving many of our staff and our finance folks who were involved, we have appointed a new finance director, a Mr. Aaron Vassilotti. I think Aaron is here with us, and I'll tell you just a little bit about Aaron. There he is. Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
You stuck around, yay. He hasn't been scared away yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Hang on.
Hang on. So Aaron was the best of the folks that we talked to. We thought he was a great fit overall. Aaron is currently the section manager for the accounts receivable and cash management department in the Palm County Sheriff's Office, a very large county. They're north of Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and has quite a rich, diverse background within the finance world. And he's just a really nice guy too. And we gave him lots of points on fit with our staff. And so we are excited to welcome him. I'll give him a few minutes, but the reason we're bringing Mr. Vassilotti to you all tonight, per the charter, the council confirms the selection of the treasurer, to be precise, who is nominated by myself. So I will be looking for a vote for confirmation from you all. But Aaron, before we turn it over to council, is there anything you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I'm very excited to come and join you guys. I think you guys have an awesome city. We've been out to visit a few times, and my wife and I really want to raise our family there. We think it's just an awesome place to be, and meeting Michael and the staff, it seems like a great fit. So I'm really excited to join you guys.
Great. Council, do you guys have any comments or questions for him?
Well, I would just say we're very excited to have you join us.
We were just wondering, did we have a bio or something that we got to review?
I sent you his resume and several other related items, I think a few days ago.
Yeah.
My apologies, I don't have it in the packet.
Okay. So, well, just tell, if you would, seeing we don't have it. So, born, raised, education, just a few things like that would be helpful. What your hobbies are, what you like, and the fact that if you're coming from Florida, I'm guessing you're going to enjoy the tail end of our summer.
Yes.
It'll be much nicer than yours is right now.
Isn't that the truth? So I am born and raised in Palm Beach County, Florida. I am married. I have 2 children. I have 2 boys, 7 and 8 years old. I went to Florida Atlantic University. I have a bachelor's degree in finance. I have a master's degree in business administration, concentration in accounting. I'm CPA eligible. I'm working on my certification right now. Through the state of Florida, I am a certified government finance officer here. I have about 12 years of experience in finance and accounting. I have over 10 years of management experience. I've managed staffs as large as 300. I currently manage a staff of 13 accounting and finance professionals, supervisors, senior financial analysts. As far as hobbies go, I love animals. I love going to the beach. I love working around my yard. I have a big property here, so I love doing landscaping and taking care of all my plants. I look forward to moving out to Colorado, going on the hiking trails and doing all those things. That's really exciting to me. So, yeah.
Aaron, I'll just share, this is Kelly. I will just share with you that we don't have any beaches here. We have the sand dunes. Having a garden and a yard is really where you're going to be feeding the deer and the wildlife. And, but the hiking trails are awesome.
Sounds good.
And Aaron is very, very smart. He already asked what kind of car he needs. So front wheel versus rear wheel, four wheel. Yeah. Yeah.
All wheel
All the wheels that we
In one
talked about.
form or another.
and chains.
All right, any further questions or comments? No? All right. Well, Aaron, welcome to the team. We're glad to have you. Thanks for joining it. And Council, can I get a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion that we confirm the appointment of Aaron Vazzalotti to the treasurer position with the city of Woodland Park.
I'll second it, providing, Aaron, you pronounce your name for me.
It's Vassalotti.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is that Italian?
Yes.
Molto bene.
Mayor Pro Tem, shall I take the vote?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Case,
Yes.
Councilmember Labar,
Yes.
Councilmember Neal,
Yes.
Councilmember Zulawaga,
Si.
Councilmember Alfieri.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Do we have
Mayor-
Councilmember Nakai that's,
I'm sorry, I already forgot. My apologies. Councilmember Nakai,
Yes.
thank you.
Aaron,
Motion
we do have
carries.
lots of dogs here and almost everybody here has dogs, so you're in the right place.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you, council. I appreciate it. And Aaron will be joining us mid-August.
And at that time, Mayor Pro Tem, I will administer his oath of office as treasurer when he's officially on board.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 4. We have none. Item number 5, consent calendar. We have 5A, approval of the July 1, 2021 regular city council meeting minutes. And Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As Mayor Pro Tem stated, we have one set of minutes on the council agenda, and those are the approval of the minutes of the July 1st regular city council meeting.
Council, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have one. I've had complaints that we may not have come out of executive session correctly. So I would just like it noted, whether it's on the record or whatever, that there is a question whether we actually did that correctly. So
Mr. Wilson, would you like to address that?
I was not here at our last
Oh,
meeting,
right.
so
Nina was.
I did discuss it with Nina, and Nina indicated to me that she made comments about the activity in the executive session following the session in the open meeting, but
She did.
I don't want to presume to address what you're getting at, Councilmember Zuluaga.
I just want the question raised so that as we acknowledge it, that it's
Sure.
been noted.
Thank you. All right, council, can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Labar,
Yes.
Neal,
yes.
Zulawaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Alfieri,
Yes.
Case.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, public comments on items not on the agenda. I do not have a list of anyone that is signed up.
I have 2 people, Mayor Pro Tem Labar.
Okay.
The first is an online submittal from Dr. Matthew Neal.
Rob, do you want to let him into the meeting or? Okay, Mr. Neal, you are available on Zoom to speak.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you perfect. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Labar, City Manager Lawson, and members of the council. I wanted to just say hello. I am the new superintendent here in Woodland Park, and I'm in day number 8. And I know oftentimes in your meeting, and I'm, as you can see, barely unpacked in my house. We've lived here about 3 weeks, and just happy to be here. And I wanted to take just a chance to, in my first, not even yet the full week, to say excited to be here and excited to work with the city. I think Woodland Park is a little bit of a dream location. I just watched as your new finance official was approved out of Florida, and I just kind of laugh. I'm a Colorado native. I grew up here. I've been out of the state for a while, trying to find that perfect place, and really feel like we found out I have a wife and 2 kids. Bought a house here, I think closed 3 weeks ago, and getting ready for school. But I know your job is oftentimes a thankless job, and I think over the past couple of years, both the school district and the city have had some wonderful successes and partnerships together, and I look forward to continuing that and sitting down with you individually and or collectively as a whole, however we can partner. I'm trying to visit as many folks as possible before school starts and things really get crazy. But I just wanted to say my office is open, and thank you for all of you do and all that you've done. It's been a fabulous 3 weeks of living here in Woodland Park, and love being here. I'm still yet a little bit acclimated to the 9,000 feet from the 5280 on the Front Range, but it's great to be here. And thank you for all you do to support our schools and our great kids at Woodland Park.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neal, for introducing yourself. And council, do you have any questions or comments or want to introduce yourselves?
I'd just like to welcome Dr. Neal. I was involved in the interviews with the folks that interviewed the candidates for the superintendent. He was my first choice, and I'm thrilled that he's here. He has so much great energy and has done some remarkable things. And I am really thrilled and excited that you're here. And I know you're going to do great things for our school district. Thank you. And welcome.
Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you so much.
I would just like to welcome you to Woodland Park.
I like your last name.
So I realized that as we got into this, this may get confusing on public comment. So I will refrain from ever saying anything in the same context in the same meeting. So
He's pretty sure about being rusty, so you're good.
Yeah, I'm pretty rusty.
or we could just trade places for a day. If you want to come down to the school district and just wear the nameplate, and we'll just trade. And it might be a refreshing, That's right.
I know that I put Councilmember Azuluaga on the spot a little bit during one of the ordinance that we talked about, where we'd like to have a little bit better relationship with the schools, so that the council, we don't have any say in how the school district is run, but we have obviously an interest because the citizens ask us questions. So I'm hoping that we might have some work sessions or just special meetings where we could just sit and talk and exchange information going forward. Did a little research in the past, several years back. They used to have just information exchanges in which the county commissioners came in, the city councils came in, and they just talked, kind of a very quick information dump between the different elements, fire district, schools, council, commissioners. And I'm hoping that maybe we could start something like that on a quarterly basis, just so we can talk. So thank you.
I think that sounds like a great idea. I would tell you that I was, somebody's just stopped by the office who I'd never met before. His name was Dave Buttery. And we sat and talked for over an hour and got a cup of coffee. And he had some really great stories of kind of times gone past and opportunities that can be done again in the future. And I would agree that in my work in other school districts in Colorado and outside of Colorado, that's pretty regular. And I think that's pretty normative between school districts and cities and council members. So I know we've all had a lot of transition, but through that transition, I believe both the school district and the city have come through and are stronger. And I look forward to that partnership. And we'll be glad to help set that up as part of our side.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you all so much. And thank you for all you do for the city.
Put you on the spot this time.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem LaBarre, the next individual signed up for public comment is Elijah Murphy.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, 6. We're moving through this tonight.
Good evening. My name is Elijah Murphy. I'm the proprietor of the Historic Ute Inn at 204 West Midland Avenue, Woodland Park, Colorado. Patrick Henry once said, "Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are inevitably ruined." The only force the constituency has as recourse is the court of law and the vote. We watched what happened whenever our system began to fail itself in Washington, D.C. on the 6th of January. I witnessed some stuff here tonight and last session that places huge questions in my mind. Council moved into executive session to discuss conflicts of interest on individuals who were up for appointment, when the law clearly states 246402 of the Colorado Revised Statutes discusses open public meetings. Paragraph 4 deals with executive session. Subsection F, subparagraph 2 states the provisions of subparagraph 1 of this paragraph F shall not apply to discussions concerning any member of the local public body, any elected official, or the appointment of a person to fill the office of a member of the local public body, or an elected official, or to discussions of personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees. I believe there were people appointed after a discussion of them in an illegal executive session. Council's executive session was even stated as the purpose to keep from dragging people's names through the mud. I don't think this is quite in keeping with the spirit nor the letter of the Sunshine Law. It appalls me personally. I have a feeling that if I started disobeying the law, somebody would be right down my neck in short order. So, following the executive session, council returns and did not read themselves out. Okay, there may have been some comments. I don't know. I'll have to go back and rewatch the tape, but here again, the people were denied their voice. Nobody was allowed to make public comment. Nobody got to interview any of the candidates. When I went through as a nominee for the public body, I was sequestered. I came out. I was thoroughly grilled. Kind of like everybody else is for almost every other board in this town. There was a thorough grilling, and I had to answer questions of the public body or the public as well. I was subject to this. Even the applicants weren't heard. We had to wait until the next DDA meeting to find out who they really were. Council simply moved to a point without discussion, without comment, with nothing. It was as if the decisions had already been made somewhere else, not in a public meeting. So my question is, when and where did council meet, and where can I access the electronic recording of tonight's appointment? Silence is also an answer. Mr. Neal, did you not support Ms. Nakai for her run for office?
Mayor Pro Tem LaBarre.
Yeah, we don't have a back and
Ask
forth.
that we are out of order. You're entitled to a public comment. I am listening. I am not, just like at the DDA meeting, I'm not being interrogated here. Thank you.
Oh, so we are above the law. To those who watched it, it was crystal clear. The plan was in place. Decisions were made outside the public forum by more than two people. I think this is highly unethical, likely illegal. I'm not an attorney. I know how it goes. Okay. Even though, why is the law written in the common language? So that common people can read it and understand it. As a matter of fact, the most common books read in colonial period was not the Bible. They were law books. So all I can say is the public should probably reject this whole thing as all I'm seeing is crony politics. And I'll be waiting on an answer as to where I can access the electronic recording of that city council meeting. Mr. Zuluaga, I suspect you should probably check yourself into a memory clinic if you're having problems remembering when and where it happened. Thank you.
Michael or Rob, do either of you have any other people signed up? Suzanne, do you have anyone else?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do not see anyone's hand up online. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And we are at item number 7, unfinished business. There is none. Item number 8, ordinances on initial postings. None. On to 9A. And our presenter is Kip Wiley for ordinance 1400.
Good evening, Council. Before you use ordinance 1400, the water share, the continuation from the July 1st meeting. Council will recall July 1st, 2021, you approved a resolution for the contract to purchase personal property, being a Twin Lake water share. The reason we have a resolution and an ordinance are both water shares are considered personal and real property, and council needs to accept the real property portion of that. So before council tonight is one Twin Lake share, and the property of that Twin Lake share for a public hearing. I'd first like to thank Suzanne for kicking this off for me. Greatly appreciated. So thank you, Suzanne. This does not expand our water capacity. This only ensures our future. When we buy these shares, it's a one-time purchase. We own that from now until the end of time, or unless council decides to sell that share. Continuing to look for shares all the time. I'm very happy to say I'm in the middle of another 0.6 share. So I'm hopeful I can bring that to you at the next council meeting. Still in discussions with that share owner. So I wanted to give you a brief heads up on that, and I can answer any questions in regards to this Twin Lake share.
Madam Chair.
Sure.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
My question that I'd like a clarification on is, if I remember from the last session, Mr. Murph, if I get my memory serves me correctly, was it's traveling about 110 miles, that share, to come to us. Do we get any compensation for evaporation or anything like that? Or how does that go?
So there's a multitude of ways you can get that water from Twin Lakes to Woodland Park. We prefer to bring it through the Homestake pipeline with Colorado Springs Utilities, and we pay them to convey it to us. We are fortunate that they do not charge us for, I'll say, a transportation fee or transit losses. We can also move this down the river to Lake Henry or Lake Meredith, and we would lose about 33% of that share, or the yield on that share in any given year. The yield changes every year based on snowpack.
So so by transferring it through the pipe, we're not losing 33% of it.
No, actually we're very fortunate where we do a 1-for-1.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks.
It does make its way down the Arkansas River for a short period of time before it is into the pipeline, but we are fortunate enough to get what we have in Twin Lakes to Woodland Park without any losses.
Thanks.
Unless we have a break in the pipeline, but in our pipeline, we won't go there.
Council, any other questions, comments?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm sorry if you already said this, Kip. What is the cost of this one share?
This one share was the 43,500.
Okay.
That's
So-
the cost that we have paid for this share. It went up slightly from the last share. If I remember correctly, it went up about $500.
It seems right in line with what we've had in about $40,000 to $50,000 per share range, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? And I'm not seeing any questions or hands raised for public comment. So council, if you'd like to make a motion for me.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance 1400 series 2021 appropriating the purchase of certain water shares.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Neal,
Yes.
Councilmember Zuluaga,
Yes.
Councilmember Nakai,
Yes.
Councilmember Alfieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Case,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Labar.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Kip. All right, we're going to move on to item number 9B. That's a consider a request by Kim Packham and the Ute Pass Saddle Club. And Laura Pellegrino is presenting that.
Mayor Pro Tem, I am sitting in
Sally.
for Laura.
That's Sally's. Sally's doing it.
And if I may share my screen and present from my seat. This planning department did receive a request from the Rock and Gem Show coordinator, Kim Packham, and she is sitting right behind me here. So this is for an event that the vendors bring their RVs and campers. And from August 16th through the 23rd, camp on site during the event. It's important to note this is the 11th year that the Rock and Gem Show has occurred on the Saddle Club property. It will be hosted on the north portion of north of the old sewer lagoons site on the Saddle Club property. Their layout will include parking, vendors, food, and in this area. They have always done a super job with coordinating. In your packet, there are 12 or 10 conditions that include requirements to remove their waste and garbage. All units must be self-contained, maximum of 45 camping units. The timeline, generators are to be turned off by 9 p.m. and they will not obstruct any access. Kim and her team does an excellent job of coordinating this event and all the participants. So with that, staff would recommend approval of this camping permit. And Kim is here to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Council, any questions or comments? And please remember, this is quasi judicial.
And that's why I had to wait. I wish I could have asked this question of you, Sally, earlier. But I noticed that the background, it states that the city council may permit self-contained camping units. And then I noticed that the list of what would be allowed, it includes tents. Tents are not self-contained. I didn't notice any porta potties. So are tents going to be there and how is that going to be handled?
Can I just interrupt you real quick and ask you to please come up to the podium so the online viewers can hear? Thank you.
Okay, when we refer to tents, we have, basically our vendors have a camper that they stay in. And then in front of the camper, we put up usually a 10 by 20 foot tent and it's fire retardant material. I think I specified how it's held down and everything. And that's where our merchandise is. So people are just in those tents during the 9 to 5 time.
Okay, so it's not an actual camping unit where they're sleeping in the tents. They're sleeping in their RVs, campers, whatever. And that's what I was concerned,
Exactly. Uh-huh.
that those aren't self-contained and it was listed as a camping unit. So thank you for the clarification.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the easy ups they use at the farmer's market, the
Yeah,
canopies.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, you do have 8 porta potties.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, they're noted here.
Councilmember Neal had a question about porta potties, and there
Yeah.
are
I
8,
see
and they
8.
are provided.
Is it the twos? You're seeing twos and
It's
Yes.
those brown units.
Oh, the brown things. Okay. I thought those were trash cans. Thank you.
Well, you know,
Refuge cans. containers.
do council any other questions or comments?
No, I hear it's a great success. I hear people really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sort of numbers do you get at a one of these events?
I'm going to hate to ask you to come up to the podium again. I'm sorry. I know people don't like to do it, but
Yeah.
We don't have a system. We don't ask for tickets or anything, but I think around 2,000, and that's over a 4-day period.
Okay.
Now, this year, judging from the shows that we've been to, we might have 5,000. This year has just been, I think everybody's dying for something to do, and it's just been phenomenal.
Okay.
So
Good
we're
for you.
hoping.
Great.
that's
Good
great.
for you.
We're glad you bring it to our town. Council, can I get a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the request by Kim Packham and the Ute Pass Saddle Club Incorporated for on-site vendor camping from August 16th to 23rd, 2021 for the Woodland Park Rock, Gem, and Jewelry Show special event at 19250 East US Highway 24 in the Service Commercial Zone District.
I'll second.
Thank you. Zuluaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Alfieri,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Labar,
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item number 10, new business. We have none. So we are already at reports
Good job.
before
Hillary.
9 o'clock.
That's amazing. And we had a 5-minute break.
This might be a historic meeting, you guys.
Take note.
Right? Thank you.
The packet was only like 13
All right.
pages though.
So we've got the farmer's market Friday from 8 to 1 at Memorial Park. Friday, July 16th is Parents' Night Out at the Woodland Aquatic Center from 3:30 to 7 p.m. Saturday, July 17th is Divide/Collection Site is open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And Tuesday, July 20th, it is Chamber Business After Hours at the Anderson Building from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And I have one last announcement. This council will be providing an opportunity for DDA board member Jan Wilson to be heard in anticipation of a council vote on whether she will be retained for the DDA board as provided by law. This opportunity to be heard and vote will occur at either our next regular council meeting or at a sooner special meeting if time permits. Of course, all required notice to the public will be given and precede any meeting that shall occur. Councilmember Case?
Thank you. Last night was the Park and Rec Advisory Board meeting, and we are just a couple things. The monthly report for the month of June is really worth looking at, council. The numbers are astounding in recovery. Just as an example, for the Woodland Aquatic Center, as of June, compared to 2020, for all the passes, most of them are daily passes, which is interestingly enough. 2020, there was a total of 225 as of June. This year, it's 833. That's huge.
Right.
And so with the challenge to hire folks, and they are interviewing and getting some lifeguards actually on board. And we do have a new aquatic center supervisor director. They are seeing a 93.78% recovery for the month of June, which is amazing. For the year to date, it's 58%. So we're seeing some good numbers, and there's a lot of other numbers on here. I'd encourage you to look at her report for June because it was pretty awesome. They're also looking for some different contractors to create a pool of contractors to serve as bartenders, to go through tips training through the police department so that they have more people to draw on for events, and the staff doesn't always have to be the folks that are working as bartenders. So that's an opportunity as well. Movie Above the Clouds starts July 23rd and again August 27th on the green by the Cultural Center, between the Cultural Center and the library. And then the 32nd Annual Mayor's Cup is August 14th. I can't wait to watch you run. They are now a Brewers Cup participant by having Beer Works host them as a team. So it's going to be a pretty awesome event. And then Touch a Truck is August 11th. And something that I'm going to see if the council would like to play, the UPass Cultural Center is hosting a Cornhole Classic. They have raised $4,000 in sponsorships for this event. It's July 31st at 10:30 a.m. They have huge cash prizes, door prizes, food trucks, beer tent. And for more information, you can call 719-687-5284 to enroll and play with a team for cornhole. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, and I just wanted to I skipped Councilmember Alfieri because I'm a very visual person. So Councilmember Alfieri,
Before you
please.
go there, can I ask her two questions?
No.
What is cornhole? What's its corn one?
Cornhole.
No
You
idea.
see those boards that are kind of slanted?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like horseshoes,
Oh, and
but
you throw-
and it has the hole in the middle and bean
Yeah.
banks.
Okay.
That's cornhole.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And my second question is, you said movie nights are the 23rd and 27th?
July 23rd, usually they're once a month, and they're starting them in July.
Oh,
July 23rd, and then August 27th
August
are the
27th.
movie Above the Clouds. It's on the green between the library and the cultural center.
Do you know what's showing yet?
I don't.
Okay, and what time?
Dark, but it starts right before, 30 minutes before dark, Rusty.
Rusty. Oh, yeah. Do you have to get a special
I-
permit for that?
I'll find,
Where are the vampires?
that phone number I gave you, 687-5284, will know that information specifically. She's not here. She left.
Thank
So you're welcome.
All right, Councilmember Alfieri.
Thank you. I just have one quick personal comment to make. No worries, it's appropriate. I know, everybody worries when somebody says that. Over the last few weeks, as was announced at the last council meeting, between an accident and then coming down with a rather vicious cold, sickness, whatever you want to call it. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone, council members, city staff, and community members who have all reached out to me. I've spoken to every one of my council members, and all of you, including the city staff members I've spoken to, have been nothing but encouraging and supportive and caring. And despite the perceptions that might be created or what might be reported, the fact of the matter is I am quite blessed and very grateful to serve among all of you. And I really appreciate just the overall camaraderie and brotherhood that we share that has just really helped me. And we might disagree on things and it may not look pretty, but really, if people saw behind the scenes and saw how much we support each other and care about each other, I think it would be rather enlightening and quite encouraging for all of them to see. So I just want to thank all of you and the city staff and the citizens who have really supported me and just been very, very, very encouraging and caring for me. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're all grateful that you're here with us. And we're glad that you could Zoom in tonight. We like having this technology. So
Get well.
yeah, that was very well said. We appreciate it very much. Councilmember Nakai.
I obviously have nothing to report.
Councilmember Neal.
I have no liaison reports.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zulawaga.
Two things I wrote down. One was Nina did suggest to council, this is building on your comments of the Jan Wilson thing with the DDA. Nina did suggest the DDA and city council might like to hold a work session. My sense is that would really help us diffuse a lot of stuff and really start moving together. So is there some, can we talk about like when that would look like?
Sure.
Whether we make it with an agenda or we make it, I mean, just kind of what that structure would look like?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
if that could happen sooner than later, I think that would be advantage to everybody.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing is the World War II Memorial dedication is happening up in Victor on Sunday. So it's at 10 o'clock. And if you go to church early or Saturday night or go to church late, it would be a worthwhile thing for some of us to attend. So
That's
I
great.
plan to be there.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. Victor, yeah. You know, the address, do you know the address of where the, is that the park?
Center of town.
In the center of town, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah.
Victor is not the largest town in Colorado.
Yeah. And if you get lost in Victor, good luck.
Yeah.
Ever finding
Go to the
your way.
pub, Bill.
Yeah. All right. Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I have two very quick things. First, it's my pleasure to introduce joining us on the dais this evening, our law clerk, Madison Linton. Maddie is a third-year student at the University of Wyoming Law School, where she's getting a joint Master's of Public Administration and Law degree.
Nice.
And she is pretty sure she wants to pursue a career in local government. I thought I'd bring her to tonight's
You
meeting.
know.
Maybe she'd go after
We
dentistry.
were really well
after-
behaved.
Just keep coming back to these meetings.
Yeah, we'll train you well.
Secondly, I just wanted to thank this council for giving me the opportunity to learn more about downtown development authorities than I ever dreamt in my life I would have an opportunity to do. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
Has it helped your joke repertoire though?
Yes, it has.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah.
And?
There's so much unintentional humor. I don't know where to start.
Michael.
So what did the mountain climber name his son?
Clem?
Cliff.
Oh, Cliff.
See, Jeff, that's the incentive for you to learn it. So couple of quick things. Wanted to provide an update on the Salute to American Veterans Rally. Our police folks couldn't be here, and Mr. Ware couldn't be here, but everything is moving forward. I'm told just earlier that there's no major hangups that we know of. We're working through everything, working in concert with the sheriff, with Mr. Ware, and the farmer's market, and that's moving forward smoothly. So our next big step will be how we communicate with folks in the downtown area, both businesses and residents, on what to expect when the rally comes around in late August. And we believe we have solutions for all the parking demands that the rally will bring. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. I don't think there's any improvements needed to any parking lots in town. They are dirt. I think it'll be just fine the way it is. Finally, I am happy to announce that the city just found out a couple hours ago that we are the successful recipients of the Restart Destinations program from the Colorado Tourism Office. This is something we applied for several weeks ago. This is the umbrella for the tourism offices, the State Office of Economic Development and International Trade. The Restart Destinations program is designed to help Colorado cities and counties drive a faster recovery from COVID in looking at tourism. And so what we will be doing is we will be working with the city as kind of a facilitator hub sort of role and bringing together different folks, stakeholders in the community who have a hand into tourism. And we will have a facilitated workshop sometime in the fall where a company that does this sort of thing, professionals will come and facilitate that conversation on what economic recovery might look like for the tourism hospitality sector and how we as Woodland Park might move together as a unified community. And so we can benefit everybody in the community all at once. So there's 75 hours of customized technical assistance to help us with that, to develop a recovery action plan, and then even $10,000 in marketing support from the tourism office to help us get started down the road. So I believe there are 30 cities around Colorado that are going to be receiving this money. This is the CARES money, if you recall, from last year. State still got some of that. I don't know how they still have it. But they're sharing it with us. So we're very excited. It's a great way to rally the community and bring new economic development dollars to Woodland Park and help that heavily impacted industry get back on its feet. So, and thanks to Grace Johnson for her work putting that together.
It's great.
So,
Pass that along.
yeah, good news.
Grace, good job.
Free money. We like it.
So
Almost no strings attached.
Be careful.
So Michael, this is different than that portion of the federal relief we got. We got like 50% of it this year, right?
Correct. This is the old money, if you will, from last year that the state got.
Okay.
Yes. I'll have more in the second pot that you talked about next meeting.
Okay.
Great.
That's all I got.
Council, anything else? All right, looks like we are adjourned.
Wow.
Yay.